Well, we're glad you're joining us for another week of our broadcast of this wonderful day in the Lord. We're looking through the Psalms and enjoying looking at these Psalms at our leisure and drawing from them what the Lord has for us. So we're going to look at 2 or 3 Psalms this week, and starting with Psalm 63. And this is a psalm that speaks of the longing of the heart of the psalmist. David apparently here, it says in verse 1, I'm going to read a few verses and we'll go back. O God, you are my God. Earnestly I seek you. My soul thirsts for you. My flesh faints for you, as in a dry and weary land where there is no water. So I have looked upon you in the sanctuary, beholding your power and glory. Because your steadfast love is better than life, and my lips will praise you. So I will bless you as long as I live. In your name I will lift up my hands. So we see a great longing on the part of David here. In verse 1, he says that he thirsts for God. On down in verse 5, which I did not read, it says, my soul will be satisfied. So his soul is going to be satisfied by God. And then down in verse 8, which I also did not read, it says, my soul clings to you. So his soul, 3 times mentions his soul. His soul thirsts for God. His soul clings to God. And his soul is being satisfied by God. So that's where he looks within himself. The soul is the inner person, the inner nature of ourselves. And as he examines himself, what he sees there is this unbelievable longing and thirst for God. This should be true of all of us, I think. We get distracted with life, and David's going to be distracted here by a number of things in his life. But as he looks within himself, what he sees is what he longs for more than anything else is to really know God, for his spiritual thirst to be quenched by God himself. And he knows that nothing and no one else can quench that thirst except the Lord. And that's what makes this psalm so wonderful and so precious to us. He goes back and he says what he looks at as he thinks about God, he thinks about, first of all, the power and the glory of God. Look at verse 2 again. So I have looked upon you in the sanctuary, beholding your power and glory. So what he sees when he contemplates God is the awesomeness of God's power and the splendor of his glory. So these are overlapping, I think, in a lot of ways, but they're also distinct. His power shows us the omniscience of God and the omnipresence of God and the omnipotence of God. God is this power that controls all things. He's sovereign over all things. Nothing gets beyond his grasp. But also in this, he's not just a power-hungry deity. You can find that in Islam, for example, with Allah, someone with great power. They worship a God they believe has great power. But our God is a God of great glory, his great splendor, he's a great marvel. And so he wonders over the greatness of God's power and the greatness of God's glory as well. And then in verses 7 and 8, he cries out for help to this great God. He says, for you have been my help, and in the shadow of your wings I will sing for joy. My soul clings to you, my right hand, your right hand upholds me. So David, as usual, is in some kind of a dilemma. He's facing the difficulties of life like you and I, although often his issues might be more immediately physical, in the sense that there's often somebody trying to take him down, trying to harm him. Much of David's life was lived that way. He was running from Saul. He ran from his son Absalom. He battled different people. People wanted to take his throne. David was always in turmoil. What he learned throughout his life is that there was one he could cling to, and that same one is the one who clung to him, the one who had power, the one who was full of glory. And so he cries out for help to this one. Under the shadows of his wings, what a beautiful metaphor, I will sing for joy. So whatever else might have been going on in his life in which David needed help, he found that in the shadows of the wings of his great and glorious God, he could sing for joy. And it's because of what his soul longed for that he could sing in that joyful way. The joy of the Lord comes to us as we long for him, as we seek him out. And this psalm reminds us of that great truth. I trust this gives you a wonderful day in the Lord. Join us tomorrow as we look at another psalm.